Hi, this is Sandy from Lightning Tools, and I'm here again with Brett. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you, Sandy. Yeah, pretty hot in the office here. We're having a mini heat wave here in the UK, so
Oh,
yeah, it's fairly warm.
well,
How's your air conditioning?
it's really nice. I was going to say I'm nice and cool in my 95-degree Florida heat.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it
Sure.
does feel like it's 90 degrees in here.
Yeah, that is too bad. But on the other hand, yeah, I feel bad about using all this energy too. So,
There you go. Cool. So, what are we talking about today?
well, I think we thought that it's been a while, or maybe never, maybe that's a while, since we demonstrated an on-prem version of one of our tools. And since this is DeliverPoint month, we thought we'd demonstrate what DeliverPoint looks like in SharePoint Server. So it's available for SharePoint Server, I guess still 2007 if you want, all the way up to 2019. So in all of those cases, it's a farm solution, so different from our SPFX web parts that kind of work both for online and on-prem. So yeah, we thought it would be worthwhile to show what that looks like in on-prem.
Yeah, definitely. So we can jump in and take a look at it. I'm just going to share my screen here.
Okay.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, in SharePoint 2019. First of all, I just thought I'd sort of clarify a few things as to why we have a WSP version of DeliverPoint for SharePoint 2019 and not an SPFX version, because we do have an
Mm.
SPFX version for the Lightning Editor, for Social Squared, and our Data Viewer, and even the Lightning Forms as well. That all work inside of SharePoint 2019 and the modern design that you have in SharePoint 2019, but DeliverPoint does not. And the main reason for that is building the tree view and the fact that it makes extensive use of the Microsoft Graph, which of course is not available inside of SharePoint 2019. That's one reason. There's also the fact that there's a lot more that we can do still with regards to permissions using the WSP rather than the SPFX version of DeliverPoint. And that is as a result of having things like timer jobs available to us and having a SQL database available as well for caching information, and also the ability to audit information as well. And these are all things that you can't do using the SharePoint framework model yet anyway. So yeah,
Right.
when that's available for the SharePoint framework, we will hopefully have auditing in SharePoint Online, and maybe even the ability to schedule reports in the same way. We can actually do that in our enterprise version now, which does make use of Azure functions, but yeah, DeliverPoint, the standard SPFX version, where it's just the SPFX app that doesn't have scheduled reports like you'll see here today inside of SharePoint 2019. So let's take a look at what DeliverPoint provides. So what I'm going to do
Sure.
is just navigate here to a site. So I'm on my root communication site here, so I'm just going to navigate down to a team site. And here inside this SharePoint team site, you of course see the modern design, and you may have a classic design as well inside of SharePoint 2019. But in here you have the site permissions, which comes out of the box with Microsoft SharePoint, and it's a little bit vague on who's permissioned. You'll see there's some site members here which are displayed because they are inside the site members group, but we also have an Active Directory security group, LT Sales, which hasn't been enumerated, so we don't know who's inside that group by default using SharePoint. So, and even if we jumped into the advanced permission settings, that's not going to help you there either. So just to give you an idea of what you can do with DeliverPoint, first thing, we can click the Site Actions menu here and come down and choose the Discover Site Permissions, which is the DeliverPoint option. And that produces a report for me. And as you can see, it's listing everybody who's permissioned. So we actually have 3 pages here of people that are permissioned to this particular SharePoint team site, and all of this is real time as well. So we get that nice performance of an up-to-date permission report, and we can see there's people with edit permissions, and we can drill down and see how that came about. And sure enough, it's through that Active Directory security group. There is the option of exporting this. You can schedule it as well. So if we wanted this to be produced every week or every month, something along those lines, we can click that schedule button, and that will create a Excel document version of this report inside a document library that you specify. So you can go and help yourself to that when you want to. So that's a discover permissions. And if I was to navigate here to a document library, which of course could be a SharePoint list as well, you'll also notice that we've got the option of discovering permissions there too. And that works if you're in the modern interface, or even if you're in the classic interface as well. So notice here that we have DeliverPoint showing for both of those through the ribbon. Losing my way then a little bit. So we've got the ribbon here for the list permissions and also for the item permissions. So as I select items in the classic view, we can use that item ribbon to discover permissions on our items and multiple items at any one time, or also whilst we're in that modern view, you can use that just as you do in SharePoint Online. So there is no ribbon obviously in the modern view, but we can go through and select items here, and we can discover permissions even if it's on multiple items. And the benefit there is, notice how you don't see the manage access option that comes with the modern interface. That only shows in SharePoint if you've just got one. The sharing link only actually shows if you've got only one object selected, whereas with DeliverPoint, you can show the permissions on multiple selected items as well. So that's some of the contextual permissions management, and we can go into the main DeliverPoint page here too. And from there, we can start to really sort of centralize our permissions management. It shows the farm. It will show us multiple web applications if we have them, and we can drill into each of our managed paths and into our site collections and start to see the different sites and the lists and the libraries that make up those site collections. And very visibly, you can see which of these sites in this hierarchy or tree view have unique permissions and which ones have inherited permissions and which ones contain other objects that have broken permission inheritance as well. So just to explain that, the top level site of course has unique permissions, but notice it has a diagonal line through it, which is telling me that there's something inside that site that also has unique permissions. And the research and development site we can see has inherited permissions, but also has that diagonal line. And as we expand that one, we can see all of the lists and libraries, their icons are dimmed, but the document library has a diagonal line through it. So notice how we can go through and select that, and we can view the folder structure and so on, and get to the bottom of what actually has unique permissions. And as you can see, it's the internal roadmap documents at the top there. So that might be concerning because it's internal roadmap. So we might have lots of things that we don't want to share there. So we can go through and select that, and we can discover the permissions on that particular folder and also on that library as well if we wanted to. So it's bringing back the library, and notice how we've also got the item permissions. So now I can start to determine should those permissions be shared in that way. Okay, so that's one of the things we can do. We can also compare permissions. So if you see, there's sites that do have unique permissions, we can compare them. And that's a great way to actually be able to determine whether we need to reset permission inheritance or not, which we can do. Other things include actually going and making those changes to permission inheritance. So notice how you've got that inherit and break permissions options available on that ribbon as well. So where we need to inherit, we can do, which is useful. So a couple of things that are unique to the WSP version for DeliverPoint and SharePoint on-premises is this audit permissions option. So notice we can go in here and we can audit permissions against a particular site collection. So there's no recent changes in the last week. So I'm just going to go back a ways and choose a wider window. And as you can see, we've got some permission changes that occurred. And this is nice because it's not just permission changes that occurred in DeliverPoint, but permission changes that may have occurred using SharePoint natively as well. So as people add or remove users from groups, maybe grant permissions to groups or to users directly. All of that information is being tracked by DeliverPoint if you turn that feature on, so we can see, who made these changes. And this is a really useful view actually here. You can see on this particular one, the permission changes. It's a real eye-opener actually. You could change permissions in one place and have it could affect a whole bunch of other sites. So usually this is when we break permission inheritance, but we don't remove groups from the sites that have now broken permission inheritance. So then you're adding somebody to a group at site A may also affect site B, site C, and site D without you realizing. And that's the sort of thing that this explains to you. And you also have the ability to set up alerts as well. So
yeah, I think that's a especially great feature in the server version.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's some things that we might want to keep an eye on, and one thing I like to do is make sure that before you give somebody the keys to manage a site collection, is to make sure that they're trained, they know what they're doing with permissions, and so on. And if you have gone through all of that, then you may still want to sort of just keep a little eye on what permissions are being shared by a new site collection admin, or be alerted to the fact that somebody's received full control to something or something along those lines. So using whatever scope you want, you can actually come down here to alert me, and in there you should see that there's an alert that I've already created. So basically we're defining a rule as to what that alert is going to contain. And this one here is going to alert me should somebody receive full permissions directly or full control directly. So yeah, it's going against the full control.
Lots of options there.
Yeah, but you could also monitor a user that's going to receive permissions, or we could also monitor the initiator of those changes as well and receive an email either immediately or a digest sort of weekly or monthly. So lots of great features. There is the permissions management side as well. So in here you can grant and revoke permissions. You can copy, transfer, delete. You can view your dead accounts and remove those as well if there are any, and also clone entire permission sets against sites and lists and items. So yeah, it's a great product, and structured slightly differently to that of the SharePoint Online version.
Another feature that's in the server version that isn't possible to do in online is to have the operator and auditor roles in DeliverPoint. I know a lot of our customers find that useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's where you can assign a certain person to be a DeliverPoint operator, and even if they don't actually have full control to content, they will be able to use the DeliverPoint tool and the dashboard to be able to report on and manage permissions. And then the auditor, kind of similar, but they can just report on things. So those are really useful, like if you're actually having an audit and you want to, you have an auditor in and you want them to be able to see permissions but not actually change them, then you can make them a DeliverPoint auditor.
Absolutely right. And here it is. So yeah, in the DeliverPoint configuration, in central administration, this is where you can set an auditor account and also an operator account. So yeah, absolutely, it's a real concern when maybe you've got a help desk and those help desk users, have to grant permissions to people that are being onboarded into the company or something like that. And in order to be able to do that, they need to have full control. With DeliverPoint, you don't. So you can have an operator account, maybe individuals from the help desk, and even if they can't access the sites themselves, they don't have read access to the site, they would still be able to grant permissions to somebody that's just being onboarded into the company or something like that. So yeah, that does make that really useful. And of course, if you want to audit your permissions, you don't need to give somebody full control to be able to do that across the board either. So yeah, good point.
Thanks. Thanks, that was a good tour.
No problem. And I think I promised this last week, but I'll promise it again. So yeah, we'll look at the enterprise version of the DeliverPoint SPFX. So for SharePoint Online next week. So I'll look forward to being able to demonstrate that.
Cool. All right, we're just going to have a month full of demos.
Exactly. Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Brett, and I will see you next week.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye.
Bye bye. Take care.